Sunshine, wild ones. It's Bernadette. I'm here with your pick a card tarot reading for Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. Y'all, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of sharing with you the story of how the animal allies literally in this moment, this morning, saved me from making a horrible mistake and in turn saved you from, I don't even know what would have happened. So here's how this shook out. So I'm sitting here, I've got my deck in my hands like I always do. My God, this is like my banky. I don't go anywhere without these cards anymore. Well, and really for the last couple of years since the arc has been out. And for those of you just joining me, I'm Bernadette, and I am the creator and channel and publisher of the multi-award winning, actually, history-making Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle deck. There it is. There it is. And it's what I read from. And so I'm shuffling this morning, and I could feel myself slip really, really deep into the meditation. And all of a sudden, I heard barks everywhere. And I thought, oh, well, I didn't have to pull a card. It's the dog card. Okay, great, wonderful. We're moving on. And then I heard very different kind of barks. And they're the kind of barks that you only hear because they echo off of the cement walls at a shelter. And I thought, no. Please, no, not this. Because as you all know, I'm very transparent about it and very authentic about it. I just don't have the battery to do that kind of work in the trenches. So I help support animal causes by bringing people together, businesses together, donating, making the money to donate, that kind of thing, raising money, that kind of thing. So I thought, oh goodness, here we go. So listen, y'all know me. I'm Pollyanna. I'm like, there's always a silver lining. Hope never dies. Never say die. Never surrender. And I could just feel myself sinking down into this darkness, this dark pit of, oh my gosh, this message is going to be so heavy for them, and this and that and the other thing. And then I had the these dogs, this is a dog that came into my mind. No joke, y'all, that dog. I couldn't help but start laughing. God love them. God bless their little pea-picking hearts. They're the cutest little things ever. And so I started giggling. And that little old dog said to me, listen, yes, some stories don't end well, okay? But that doesn't mean that the whole world falls apart, and there is always hope, and there is always a positive direction to go from everything. Nothing is lights out. There is no such thing as a finality. There is no such thing as kaput, that's it. That's why it's called the circle of life. That's why it's called the dawn of a new day. That's why it's called hope springs eternal. What? And that little dog said, WTF are you thinking? That's not what we're trying to tell you. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I had to think, what made me sink that far down? I'll tell you that quickly, right? With not even, at that point, it was me. It wasn't that I was getting the messages from the animal allies. I simply switched right off and went, ugh, because of my own personal filters. Okay, so here's what was shown to me. And I am so grateful to be wrong at the outset, and I am even more grateful that the animal allies were like, hey, snap, like Sharon Moonstruck, snap out. Oh, her mom, Olympia Dukakis, snap out of it, or whichever one it was. Okay, so here's the thing. For me, when I sat and I listened, when I was like, what is going on? Okay, shelter dogs, they symbolize everything a dog symbolizes. Love, unconditional love and loyalty and fierce protection of hearth and home and your pack, right? But each type of dog also symbolizes other things depending on its breed. Well, you can consider shelter dogs a breed because they're called shelter dogs, and they're dogs that are in a shelter, and they've got a commonality in a couple of different ways in all of them. So I'm just loosely calling them a breed. And that is this. Shelter dogs aren't in shelters. The 99.9% reason that shelter dogs are in shelters is because they're pets that escaped and then they got lost and maybe their owners looked for them, maybe they didn't, maybe they, maybe they didn't want to find them, maybe they desperately wanted to find them and just couldn't, or they're abandoned. That's it. But either way, I absolutely, I absolutely know what it's like to be in total fear and be so lost and confused and afraid. And I'm going to guess every one of you have experienced that at least once in your lifetime. And I absolutely understand. Not, oh gosh, that word again. Y'all, I'm sorry. I'm trying so hard not to use that word. Understand. Terrible word. I absolutely identify with and feel empathy and compassion for those who have struggled with abandonment issues, or have been in a place, maybe it was just a one-time thing, but you get what it feels like to feel abandoned. Single mom, right? Dad exited stage left. That was that. Relationships of different various kinds. It can be very easy to feel totally alone and abandoned and not worthy and like an outcast. I've felt all of those things. I keep trying to tell y'all I'm the most socially awkward person there is. I do okay if it's people I know, and it's, if I'm teaching or something, I do great. But in a social situation, you stick me in a social situation of people I don't know, I'm back helping the kitchen people. I'm running around helping the servers because I can't do the small talk. I'm not capable. I don't want to. So all of that said, this video today, this daily pick a card reading for today, is about the shelter dog in you, and working with shelter dog medicine and energy to find your hope again, to be able to love unconditionally again, to be able to trust again, and to find your way out of being lost. And here's what that starts with. First of all, shout out to anybody who works in shelters or has anything to do with shelters or rescuing animals, or fostering animals. You all are earth angels, and I absolutely bow to you. I honor you. I respect you. I all of the anythings to you. It is all about you. And what that symbolizes, what shelter dog symbolizes for you today, is there are always helpers in this world. It doesn't matter how alone you feel. You're only alone as long as you're not looking for a helper. When you will let yourself look for a helper, when you will ask for help, when you trust that there are helpers, you don't even have to ask. To be honest, you don't even really have to ask for the help. You just have to trust that there are helpers in the world. And that's a whole nother video about how animal allies can help you trust, right? Or how they can help you learn to ask for help and be okay with asking for help. But at the end of the day, you're only not getting help if you're not asking for the help. Okay, but you're only not getting help because you don't believe it. You don't believe you're worthy of getting the help, or you don't believe that people will help. One of those two scenarios. But when you believe and when you get that you are worthy of the help, the angels show up. The dogs show up. The shelter dog, the metaphorical shelter dog shows up, or it might be a literal shelter dog. Maybe that's what you're hearing today. Maybe this video is in this moment on April 20th, because April is prevention of animal cruelty month, which is exactly why I'm running the Kickstarter during April. Is maybe it's your call that it's time to run on down to that shelter and get that dog you've been thinking about, or a cat, or whatever. Today's video happens to be about dogs. I don't care if it's a guinea pig. Maybe this is your call to get on down to the shelter and get it, right? The dog that needs you and the dog that you need, it's like Rumi says, what you seek is seeking you. And that might be about a shelter dog today. If that is not today about getting a shelter dog, certainly you can call on shelter dog as your power animal and invoke those parts of yourself that completely identify and feel sympathy and empathy for yourself if you're feeling scared and abandoned and alone, for others that you know are feeling alone or scared or abandoned, because at their core, dogs are unconditional love and they are unconditional trust. Now, are there dogs out there that have been, not treated well, and so they're not there? They are fearful. They are aggressive. They are angry. They are non-trusting. Yes, absolutely. Can the majority of those dogs be rehabilitated? I am of the opinion, I don't have any proof for this, but I am of the opinion every single one of them can be rehabilitated by the right person under the right circumstances and given the right amount of time and the right environment. That's all it takes. But I'm of the opinion about that, about anything. Again, Pollyanna, call me Disney, call me whatever, but I believe everything is savable with enough effort, with enough focus, with enough time, with enough love, with enough patience. Everything is savable. I'm just going to leave it at that. So that doesn't mean that there aren't bad times. That doesn't mean that there aren't times that will bring you to your knees, but it's never lights out. And this may be one of those times. And you might need to invoke Shelter Dog so that you can regain your hope and you can regain your, get a hold of your confusion and get a hold of your fear and start seeing things through a different set of eyes. Now, this might be a call for you to ask Shelter Dog to walk along with you as your animal spirit guide, your spirit animal, so that you, if you're not in a place where you're strong enough yet, or you don't have a strong enough battery yet, or are not healed enough yet to get to a place where you can invoke that Shelter Dog is your power animal to regain your hope, to regain your unconditional love, to and just move more smoothly into that. You may need more processing time. Totally get that. And Shelter Dog is there as your ally. You guys could do it together. I mean, listen, what somebody asked me, this was funny, but true. Somebody asked me, I don't know, a couple, 2-3 weeks ago, and they said, well, you're single and you're starting to think about being open again to, somebody maybe-ish, maybe. And they said, so do you have any more clear of a vision of who you want to call into your life this time than you have last time? Because those times didn't work, or they worked as long as they were supposed to, and then they didn't work anymore, or they, we went on about our merry business. That's how it happens. And I said, you know what? I do. I want somebody that knows they're a bit broken, a bit fractured, but has had the gumption and the wisdom to put all those cracked pieces back together. It's a Japanese art form that I can never remember the name of, but it's where you take the 18 karat gold and that's what you piece those pottery things back together with. And the idea in this Japanese art form is that that pot is so much more valuable than the perfect pot, because the perfect pot doesn't know what it feels like to be broken, and it hasn't had to piece itself back together. But when you're the broken pot, or you're the broken dish, or you're the broken whatever, speaking of which, oh my goodness, my cat Aphrodite just walked. Oh my gosh. She almost never almost never, when I'm talking on video, she never goes by, but there she went. And that is a great example of a rescue that people would have been like, it's a lost cause, Bernadette, forget it. I'll tell you that story in 2 seconds. It's a short story. But yeah, I want that person. I want that person that has been just broken into many, many pieces and then glued themselves back together. There could be some hot glue and some caulk in there, but liquid nails, but Gorilla Glue, but mostly they glued themselves back together with 18 karat gold, and they do recognize and appreciate that in other people. So that said, Aphrodite, she's a prime example of how a shelter dog or a shelter cat, actually, shelter cats are a completely different story than shelter dogs, can really come to a place of trust. She was feral. And a guy that worked in the office that my ex-husband worked in, he took to feeding all the neighborhood cats. Love him for that. And he would take them in and he would get them, spayed and neutered, and, any animal he found on the street, he would do that too. And so my ex-husband, when we were married, he called me, and I thought the world was burning down because he never calls. He always texts. And he said, hey, there's a kitten up here. I just really feel like we should adopt her. And I went like that because I already had 7 cats when we got married, and he took the cats because he loved me so much, never liking 1 second of it. I was like, okay. So they were able to get the cat into their office and shut the door. And when the cat heard that cat kitten went buck wild. She couldn't have been 7 or 8 weeks, and she went buck wild and went to climbing all up in the shelves and behind files and this and that. And I came on down and I was like, all right, y'all leave. Just let me, I'm the animal whisperer. That is the one animal I have never been able to get to come to me. So 2 hours into this, I said, listen, I don't want to be aggressive with you, but I'm going to have to snatch you, and we're going to have to do this a different way. So she had shimmied back up under this bookcase, and I took a box and I sat in front of the bookcase, and then I took a box and I slid it right back under there, where the only way, because it was already solid on this side, the only way for her to get out was to come through me. She wasn't having any of that. So very slowly, I reached my hand up under there, expecting to get bit and scratched. And all of a sudden I heard, I thought, oh my God, I've given this kitten a heart attack. I'm going to pull her out. She's going to be dead. I busted out crying right there. I pulled this cat out, and she was the most dejected, had given up on everything, anything I'd ever seen. It broke my heart. I cried even harder because she just went limp. In her spirit, not in her heart, in her spirit, she said, I'm dying. I'm dead. That's it. She's going to kill me. That's what she thought. She was like, oh my God, this is the end. That cat stayed as limp as she could. And I had to take her to the vet. I couldn't bring her to my colony of cats at home. I had to get her checked. I had to get her this. I had to get her that. Fortunately, it was a couple hours before the vet could see her. And I was able to hold her in my lap. I defleed her as much as I could in my lap. I gave her water. I gave her food on my finger. She did lick at the water. She did look at the food. I thought, okay. But she was so terrified she couldn't even shake. She just was limp. So I took her home after, all the testing and everything. And I slept in a bathroom for a month. I did. I mean, you can't know what I did. And she comes to one person and one person only. That's not true. She will go to my ex-husband occasionally. She comes to one person and one person only, and that's me. Now, is she a very happy, well-adjusted cat that gets along with the rest of the cats? Is she the most playful thing with the best personality? And when she wants her treats or she wants to be loved on, she's super vocal about it. But you let her get a whiff of a stranger, pew, she's back to the bedroom somewhere. I still, after 3 years in this house, still can't figure out where she hides. Here's what this has to do with you and a shelter dog. I don't know where you're at in your journey about feeling scared and confused and alone and lost or abandoned. But I love you, and I believe in you, and the animal allies believe in you, and you're going to get through it. You're going to be okay. And if you can, if it makes sense to you, please reach out to the spirit of shelter dogs, because it's not just one dog that you're reaching out to. It's all the shelter dogs that have ever been and all the shelter dogs that will ever be. It's the collective consciousness of shelter dogs. And in that consciousness, there'll be all kinds of stories. There will, unfortunately, be shelter dogs who did not get adopted and met a much earlier end to their life than they should have had. There will be shelter dogs that will be in the same place that you are, scared, alone, confused, lost, and feeling deeply, terribly abandoned. And there will be shelter dogs that are like, hey, this is another adventure. Another adventure. Who, where am I going now? What am I doing now? Whose face am I licking now? Those are the resilient ones. And yes, it would be great to align with them, but not every dog has the same temperament. Not every person has the same temperament. Not everybody's on the same journey. But what I do know is this, and it's not because I know it. It's because the shelter dogs today told it to me to tell you. Just about everyone and everything can come back to life. I don't even want to use, they told me not to even use the word rehabilitated, because it's not about rehabilitation. It's about bringing your spirit back to life. It's about infusing your spirit with the love that it deserves, which is unconditional and never ending, about feelings of self-worth, which should be very strong and unshakable, immovable, and eternal, and all of the other great things, the strength, the power, the bravery, the courage that dogs have. You've got it all in you. You may not feel like it today, but you do. You absolutely do. The key is to access it. That's it. The key is to remove the blocks that are stopping you from accessing that, and just pew, 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 with your Wonder Woman bracelets, get that crap out of the way and let Shelter Dog, you guys walk together and you find the path together to your tribe that loves you unconditionally, that you become their forever family, and that's that. And I wish that for you today, maybe more than I've ever wished anything for you. I'm going to get all emotional, so I'm going to go now. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I don't even know what other marketing stuff to say because now I'm good and shook up. So I love you guys very much. What's the most important thing you can do? Do good for animals, including yourself, and stay wild.